Alright guys, so welcome. This is the video guide for, shoot, it's like Poppy. This video guide for new PEEBA comp, which is Junkyard Frogs. So, talk about a couple things. Normally I like to start Belt because I think that slamming Sunfire Cape or Redemption is a really solid mid-game. On a carousel where there's offensive components only, I think Sword Start is the best. Unfortunately there I did miss the sword, so we had to settle for Rod. Rod's not bad either. I think you just don't really want to get bow, because if you get multiple bows it's not necessarily the best. So for early game build, or early boards, you basically just want to be looking for scrap units are really good pickups. You can run Yordle. I've run, Syndicate with Twisted Fate plus an Arcanist. Essentially, you just want to get a 2-star frontliner and a 2-star backliner, and then kind of just like focus on leveling from that point forward. In terms of augments, you want to take something that's going to give you a solid mid game. So, in this case, Stand United isn't amazing in the mid game, but it is really good late game because at the end of the game you're going to have 11 active synergies, so that means 44 AD and AP per unit, which is just insane value. Go ahead and take that. We'll pick up Trundle. Another really good, depending on what the mutation is, Mutant can be really good. This is actually the best mutant, the Elderwood mutation in my opinion, because you're going to have a solid front line, buy a lot of time for the mutation to grow, which is awesome. Another good one is Cybernetic, if you get that offered. Syndicate. I think I'm just going to take Quinn. Potentially get So we don't really have that many good low tier pairs here, so I actually think that I'm just going to sell out here and level to play Bruiser. Bruiser is really solid. Because again, it's giving your entire team, 125 HP, and then double for the Bruisers. It's just a lot of value, especially early game when health is king. There's a number of early boards you can go for. If you get like a Poppy 2 and you get Yordles from your gold orbs, definitely play Yordle. I always like to pick up Swain. I think a random Swain 2 is very good. You're basically just trying to put in different... Nice, so we ended up hitting Leona, which is super good. Leona is very good. Great pickup because she gets a big HP shield and she also gives resistances. So if you're running, Bruiser plus Bodyguard, you're just getting a lot of resistances. And like I talk about in the text guide, if you've read through that, Scrap is very good, just a lot of good value as well. Wow, he's already got 20 gold. Rich get richer. It's nuts. So a lot of value from Scrap. If you get any Scrap units, especially since I'm not eager to make, Gunblade, Shojin, or Archangels. It's pretty nice here to utilize Scrap to kind of convert a full component into a full item that you can then gain more benefit from. Okay, interesting. So we hit Alawi 2 and Swain pair. We could potentially sell this, buy this pair, and pre-level. Again, like I said in the guide, you're kind of trying to play for like a early item slam, good upgrades, augment that's going to give you a really nice stage 2 and stage 3, And then you're trying to just really cement your early game and maybe start to lose rounds once you hit stage 4. But that way you have a good HP and econ lead, and you should be able to transition pretty well into your level 8, potentially even go all the way to level 9 board. And that is the goal. Well, we end up losing, which is unfortunate. That guy had a Talon too. We're not able to complete an item. Nice, so we will go for Tarek here. Tarek's a really good pickup. If we can't get Belt, we'll probably just be taking the Swain 2. In fact, maybe we'll just be taking Swain 2. I think I'm just going to take Swain 2. I think Swain is a really good unit. I mean, I don't necessarily utilize the Imperial trait, but he has healing and very high base resistances. 45-45, if you take a look, is actually the same as the higher tier. Bruisers. Not bad, so we do get scrap out of that. We get to make Ionic Spark, and then we're going to be converting a full item. It's a bummer that we lost here because, you know, we could have had a 5 streak in this stage quite easily if we had just won a better matchup in this round. But not too big of a deal. As you can see, just like, you know, when Leona ults, if you have your team clumped, she's going to be giving you a lot of armor and MR, because remember, this does give to all of your allies. And then, you know. So we'll hold on to TF here because we can easily tech in Arcanist. Another option, if we wanted to, is if we hit Ziggs, we can play Ziggs for Arcanist plus a 3rd scrap, and then if we get like an Ezreal, we could potentially drop Bodyguard and play 4 scrap, convert another item. So these are the types of boards you're looking for. You know, nothing too crazy. In terms of items you're looking to go for, if you take a look at the builder or you read through the text guide, what I recommend is Belt Start, and then you're looking to slam Sunfire over Redemption, eventually both, and then Ionic Spark. These will be your 3 items that you put on Tahm Kench. I've had a lot of questions as to why these items. At first I was toying around with Gunblade and Deathcap because the idea is to get Tahm Kench to start spitting out items as quickly as possible. However, it felt like you couldn't quite kill really beefy units that had, you know, Declaw or cloak items or multiple enchanters. So I started making Ionic Spark, and it works out really well. If you have Redemption as well, if we read this, you know, you take a lot less damage from multi-target abilities. Now this can almost be deceiving because it affects so much more than you might think. You might be thinking like, oh, okay, well, it's, you know, AoE from Luxalt or blah blah blah. That's true, but it also affects things like Jhin ult because his ult can hit multiple targets, so therefore it is classed as multi-target, which is pretty crazy. So you've got Vi ult, you know, Swain ult, things like... Actually, I'm not sure how Heimerdinger's ult works. I don't know if it can hit multiple targets. Darius ult gets reduced, TF ult gets reduced, you know, all these abilities get reduced, so... and there's a lot of AoE in this set. If you think about late game, you've got like Victor, Jinx, Jace, Lux, even Dr. Mundo is considered a multi-target attack because it can hit multiple units. So Redemption gives a lot of value because it gives you healing and the damage reduction, which is really nice. After that, the items I tend to go for are just kind of like sword items. GA is really good on Jace. Giant Slayer on. I hope we win this. I actually feel like I might not. Leona 2's incredibly tanky. Nice. But yeah, if you just take a look there, like look at how much damage Swain is doing with 0 active traits. Like he does a lot of damage. So I really like Swain as a transition unit. I also really like Malzahar. So I will always pick up a Malzahar as well because he just does a lot of passive damage. And if you have a team comp like I have where you know you're running like a bodyguard and a bruiser, like you have a lot of innate health. And then, you know, if you have Sunfire Cape and or Redemption, your team is just lasting a long time. So anything like Malzahar, Sunfire Cape, things that are going to get a lot of ults off or a lot of value. Ezreal is a great unit, obviously. Ziggs as well. I have heard that they're definitely nerfing Trundle, which makes sense. He's actually ridiculously strong. In fact, I might just get soloed by him here, which is sad. Because I really should never lose that. But look at that damage. That is ridiculous. So I always go for item grab bag because again, like I say, just if you can have some type of early game that gives you an advantage over your opponents. Oh, and look at that. Actually just so perfect. We get the Leona, or we get the Sunfire Cape. Really, really nice. We don't have a great... I don't want to sell my Vibe here, so we don't have a great way of making 30, which is why that loss there is really a bummer. I don't think I should ever lose to this guy when he just has, you know, Trundle 2. I'm pretty decked out. So our board is really strong. Our econ isn't that great. We will fall off in stage 4. It's kind of a bummer. We hit 2 bad losses right before spiking, but it's not a big deal. In terms of taking item grab bag, I will also always reforge items that are bad. This includes things like ZZ Rot, Last Whisper, Static Shiv. Occasionally I'll use Static Shiv for the early to mid game because it is decent at that point. But let's say you take it and you get something that you really aren't looking for, like, yeah, even Gunblade. Just reforge it right away. At least then you know what your end item is going to be. So if it's really, really bad, you have the entire early and mid game to pivot around it. Because remember, item grab bag always gives you a Reforger, which is great. In terms of augments you want to look for, yeah, like early game augment, I suggest things like Cybernetic, augments, Stand United is decent, item grab bag is great, Sunfire Board, Phony Frontline, anything that you think will just give you an advantage over most of your opponents. So like item grab bag, you're up a full item, which is great. Sunfire Board's giving you a lot of damage and utility. Here we have really great stuff. We're probably just going to be taking the tier. Okay, and the tier gets taken, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. Don't really want another cloak, so I will take bow, even though bow isn't amazing here. Although we do actually have a sword, so I can just go Giant Slayer. Random Blitzcrank 2 is always nice. Of course, we can complete Giant Slayer and then put this here, which will now create another item from the scrap trait, which is great. Remember that scrap also is giving your whole team a shield per component, including those that are part of a full item. So right now we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 20, so 180. 180 shield times 6, that ends up being a lot of value. Not to mention, like, obviously Jewel Gauntlet's not great on Trundle, but we are getting another completed item. Half the time it's great, half the time it's whatever. Just gotta work with it. Ideally you want to hit a couple upgrades like this, and then you're just gonna sit on them for a long time, because unlike in set 5, it doesn't necessarily feel like the units fall off a cliff like they did in set 5. And what do I mean by that? Like, you could have a couple 2-star 2 costs and some decent synergies, and then somebody rolls down. Like a while ago, we hit, you know, Jin. We fought somebody with Jin. He's got Sniper and Scrap. If this was a Philios in set 5, it would have just deleted my whole team. So it doesn't necessarily feel like the power curve is that, it's a lot more smooth. So as long as you're playing good upgrades, and a smart board, synergy-wise, making the best of what you're offered, you should be able to be in a pretty good spot, unless somebody is rolling very heavily or potentially high rolling, you know, like a 2-star 4 cost very early in the game. It's not like the units just fall off so suddenly in stage 3 and going into stage 4. Anyways, what I like to do quite frequently with my upgrades is actually hold them as long as I can, utilize the fact that they are upgraded, that they're giving decent synergies, and then actually feed them to Tom Kench, because upgraded units actually give a bonus in the stat that is given. Another common question I was asked quite a bit on the guide, the text guide, is what stats give what to Tom Kench? And that's a great question. Wow. Okay, these are actually quite bad. So we don't really have anything amazing to play here. You know, I could play a Protector or an Academy. Nothing too spectacular. I actually am just going to play 2 Malzahars because he does lower magic resistance. Of course I have Ionic Spark, but in case they're out of range. Wow, and that guy hit Trundle 3. Oh, we'll probably, and this guy just hit Talon too. Well, we're definitely going to be losing these fights then. Which is a bummer, but like I said, if we were able to actually just bridge the gap that we had, right now we've lost 3 total rounds, and we've gotten our streak broken pretty much every time, which is kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I don't really, I mean, I could play Academy, which is like not amazing. These components are all actually quite bad, so I think I am just going to make Declaw and then look to reforge it later. I should have done this already, actually. Another thing we could have done is maybe benched Vi, lost Bruiser, and just play these 2 scrap units. And while we will lose a little bit of HP, we gain a little bit back from the overall team-wide shield, as well as we will be able to convert more components. So we could have spread, you know, the Giant's Belt as well as made something else. Wow, we actually beat Trundle 3. I'm not entirely sure how. I guess because we had Sunfire Cape this time, it was a lot easier. Why was I thinking I had a Scholar somehow? Another great augment to take is Pandora's Item. Trade Sector can be really good because if you use your natural shops really wisely, you can get very deep into the game without having to reroll much. Generally, anything that gives a trade is not that good because the end game comp for what I'm trying to show you here is actually a lot of 2-piece synergies pieced together. So they're all already completed. Therefore, you know, Mutant Spat, Assassin, stuff like that are all unnecessary and don't add any value to your overall composition. So, augments that give stuff like that, not necessarily good. And as you can see, like, you know, Trundle 1 doing decent damage. We got just the the base damage from Blitzcrank. Malzahar and Swain are doing a lot with just minimal, like all we're giving them is Arcanist. Malzahar doesn't even have any items. We're just playing a really efficient board here. Okay, so we're planning on reforging this stuff. What we could do is just take Tarek and then, okay, well, oh well. I believe that we have an open glove, in which case I think Hand of Justice is very good. Another really good augments that you can start looking for is, go ahead and play this. Academy is very useless, and Socialite will actually give us a lot more damage. We can reposition a bit, kind of like this. Go ahead and get Hand of Justice, and now this item is the only open item, so Scrap will convert that component, which is great. At this point, we're definitely not going to be hitting those two. One thing you actually want to keep in mind, and something I just made a mistake, you should never ever be buying experience in stage 4, because you can get an augment. There's 2 augments that I can think of off the bat where you wouldn't want to waste your gold. One being Rich Get Richer, right? You can have up to 7 interest gold. The other one being, let's say I get Level Up here, where when you buy experience, you get +3 bonus experience. I just wasted 20 gold worth of experience that gave me no value, and then I could have gotten, you know, something here. Okay, you know, these are really not that great, but Titanic Force is just giving us raw stats, which is what we're looking for. Academy, technically, you can play in the comp. It is one of the open synergies. Yumi is Academy, and you do not have a second one. I would not recommend either of these. So we will go for Titanic Force, even though it's really not that great. One thing to keep in mind is once you have a lot of these units 2-starred, they are actually just about over the max threshold if you're running Bruiser, which we will be the entire game. Just about the entire game. So like you can see, I put together a fairly cheap board. I have not rerolled once yet. You know, we were a little lucky. We hit an early Leona 2, which was good. We actually didn't hit very many 1-star upgrades right away, so that's a little bit more common to switch from something like a Darius or Poppy 2 or Cassidon or whatever into something like this. Regardless, this should be a pretty good example of how your early to mid game goes. We've lost 3 rounds so far, 1 in each stage. But not bad. And as you can see, I'm in a great position for myself to push. I'm not going to be rolling at 8 here. I'm fine. I personally am very comfortable losing, you know, up to 60 HP here in stage 5 just to go level 9 and ensure that I'm going to be outscaling. Obviously, lobby tempo will be a little bit different. This is a normal. The original recording I did got deleted because I unfortunately have copyright strikes from playing copyrighted music, which is a huge bummer, but it is what it is. So originally I had done a recording with a bunch of viewers, and we were able to get a little bit more of a high quality game, meaning people closer to my initial rank. Since this is a normal, I don't necessarily know these people's ranks. I potentially could have asked in all chat, but half the time that doesn't even really give you a great example because only one person answers. Regardless, I've been playing in a lot of in-house lobbies with mostly Diamond through Challenger players. So hopefully you'll take my word, or even just give it a test yourself, that this comp has a lot of merit and it can do quite well just playing this type of play, like efficient, flexible play style without rolling much. So we're playing 2 Vi's. We definitely can put another unit in here, something that might give us a stat. I mean, we get Lux, we get Arcanist from Lux. Or we get Academy, rather. Go ahead and play that. Push levels. Another thing you can do here if you're not confident is instead of buying half experience, again, like I was talking about, just sit on the gold. I can have, 90 gold here and then decide, oh wait, I can't make it to level 9. I should not be buying experience. The moment you commit to buying experience, you can never get it back, right? So it's not a bad idea to just sit on 90 gold. Maybe you commit, maybe you decide, oh, I can't. I'm not going to commit. Right, like let's say I was going into the stage with like 50 HP and I think, wow, I'm relatively strong, and then all of a sudden we lose 3 or 4 fights in a row. That's no good. Protector, bodyguard. Yeah, we can't really add much here, so we're not going to. Another thing to point out is just by activating Academy, because I have Stand United, I'm getting another 4 AD and AP per unit, and well, it's really not that much. It does add up. It adds up. And if there's one thing I had to say about this comp is that all of it adds up. In my text guide, I mentioned it's quantity over quality. We may not have the best items, but we have a lot of them. And we end up getting a lot of units, a lot of synergies. The synergies aren't insane, but how does that person have so much health on their Samira? Ah, I see. All gloves. So we do have, these are pretty good Jace or Jinx items. I'm pretty comfortable putting them on either of them. And like I said, we're going to be reforging the D-Claw because it's not going to be very useful in this lobby. We've got triple physical damage and then, what's his face? I'll actually take Infinity Edge. I think Infinity Edge is a good pickup. Honestly, people ask me what's the best items for Jinx and Jace. It doesn't really matter. They don't have to be insane. Generally, I like to go for healing, like Hodge or even Bloodthirster, if you don't get an early Celestial Blessing or Thrill of the Hunt. One thing to note, I would recommend not taking Thrill of the Hunt early because it doesn't give you a lot of value. Whereas something like Item Grab Bag or Sunfire Board or Phony Frontline gives you a lot more value in Stage 2. And then in Stage 3 you can get your second Augment. I suppose we should get this to someone, huh? Who wants it? We'll go to Malzahar. It doesn't make much sense, but it's still, again, stats. Whatever. And like I said, you may be in a position where you definitely can't go 9, like you're barely holding on. Early game wasn't what you wanted it to. Lobby's a lot more fast-paced. Just got to make a judgment call. Look at your position. You can very easily win games at level 8. In fact, the first recording I did that didn't actually get saved, I was level 8 and I got second. I hit every unit in the comp minus Jhin. I wasn't using Jhin, and I did not upgrade a single 5 cost, so I had Yuumi, Tahm Kench, Jace, and Jinx 1. None of them were upgraded. I still got second, and the only reason I got second and not first is because I was playing against a viewer who went the exact same comp, and he hit 2 Jace 2s. He was playing Mercenary, rolled down, hit 4 Jaces, and then double Niko'd the second one. Another thing is, like, if you're not super comfortable, stabilizing in a creep round on low HP like this, maybe you do want to roll a bit to try and stabilize. I've been doing this a lot, so it's not a huge deal for me. And I am actually going to level here because while it does cost 12 gold and it would only cost, 8 next turn, we will be getting gold here, which will put us at 40, and we also get 2 gold worth of a reroll here from our shop. So it's quite worth it. Shojin's not a bad item. We could potentially reforge it though. Keep in mind, if you're at this point in the game and you don't have like any or much sellback value, you can definitely just look to, instead of feed all of your units to Tom Kench, you can sell back the ones that you really can't afford. You know, if you're struggling economically, perhaps you don't have the ability, you don't have to feed all of them, right? So put this here, we're going to reforge that. Where's Tom Kench? We can give him that and that. We can give this to Jinx. And then I guess we're just not using any of these items, which is a little bit ridiculous if I think about it now, but that is the decision that I apparently made. That's actually a huge mistake. Jinx with Giant Slayer here would have, you know, killed more units. Now we're lethal, not in a great spot. So there's Jace. We can feed this here. We're going to sell this and this. We're going to play a Janna. Go ahead and put Jace here. Connect Yuumi to him. Put Jhin in for our last unit. Janna can go there. Gotta keep rolling. Jace will give this. Get this here. Jace will get that. Get that there. We'll give Scrap. Nah, misclick. Janna has a really high hitbox. Okay, we got our Bramble Vest, which isn't amazing, but we'll go ahead and throw it there. And it looks like we're just going to actually go ahead and die here. So I will say this, you know, you got to toy around with the build a little bit. Perhaps this game I needed to roll more at level 8. Still were able to make a nice top 4. Probably needed to roll a little bit at 8, scout a bit better, focus less on commentary. Didn't quite have enough time to make the transition. Fortunately, the second part of the video that I did record will show you a little bit better of what it's like to go fast 9 if you have a solid position, and what the end game board looks like and the type of power you can have in that situation.